A wonderful good morning, Germany and Europe, and a wonderful good evening, Australia. I have the honor today and have Anna McAfee as my guest on my LinkedIn Live IMBEO Connecting the Community format. Yeah, Anna, thank you so much for tuning in. We have today two extremes. One is we have a 10-hour time difference. And secondly, you are running into summer or you are mid in the summer and we are running into winter. We had actually the first snow already. So how are things in Australia right now?
They are warm and only getting hotter. So yes, we are heading into a hot Christmas time here in Australia, which also means the end of the school year, and we're very, very, very opposites. And of course, yes, it's evening for me. We are at least on the same day. I do a lot of lives on LinkedIn where I'm actually, one's on Tuesday and one's on Wednesday. So we've at least managed the same day.
That's true. That's true. Wow, wonderful. So for all our viewers, we are on a LinkedIn Live right now. And I love these LinkedIn Lives because one thing on a LinkedIn Live is very particular, and that is our nearly real-time engagement with you guys. So as you're pouring in, please write in the comments from where you are tuning in. So this is half globe covering LinkedIn Live right now. We have about 20,000 miles distance, but we are so close with Anne together today, and we are keen to answer all your questions. And also, please, if you could just drop me a note whether you can hear and see us nicely, that would be really fantastic of you. So I will speak today with Anna about a very particular topic, and that is LinkedIn locals. Some of you who follow me for a while know that I've been speaking on a few LinkedIn locals here in German-speaking countries, that is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And I found the vibes really, really great, yeah, in these LinkedIn locals. And to see these people not only virtual on the screen, but have a really face and a personal discussion. And I've spoken in Vienna, I've spoken in Basel, Switzerland, and in a few places in Germany. So, Anna, you are a co-founder of the LinkedIn local movement, and it was always a desire for me to speak to you because I'm some sort of, missing the background of the LinkedIn locals, how it started, who started this, why they started this. But before we dive into that, would you please introduce yourself first? So what are you doing for a living? What is your main job? I guess it's not LinkedIn locals.
No, I think it might have been for a while. Yes, so for those that don't know me, I'm Anna McAfee. I'm based in a small city called Coffs Harbour in Australia. And I am a community educator and also a LinkedIn trainer. So I kind of cross the community and the LinkedIn spaces and have quite a niche in the middle. So that's kind of my I guess my day-to-day stuff. Obviously LinkedIn local, a lot of my community education came from the experience of LinkedIn local, and I also published a book this year, or co-authored a book with Nicole Johnston called How a Hashtag Changed the World, and that is a kind of, I guess, the experience of LinkedIn local, as well as 60 stories from hosts or attendees around the world about the impact it had on them. So
yeah, we will talk about your book anyway also in the course of our in the course of our LinkedIn Live. So Anna, let me ask you first of all, how did you come up with the idea of setting up a local? Was it in Sydney, in this city of Sydney?
No, it's in the city of Coffs Harbour, which we're about 6 hours
okay.
north. 6 hours north of Sydney.
Okay. The place where you live, actually. That makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. And so the idea came from, I was doing a lot of connecting. I've always been a LinkedIn fan. I came from the recruitment industry, and I was doing a lot of connecting locally as I was coming back from maternity leave. And I saw lots of interesting people on LinkedIn, but one, there weren't people I was meeting at events, and two, there was also very low local engagement. So after a few chat threads that were happening on some posts about local engagement, it was actually someone else in my local area who suggested that we meet up. If there was so few people using LinkedIn, why don't we meet up? And I thought, why not? So I decided to put up a post the subsequent week, which said, I'm going to host a LinkedIn Local event for local, LinkedIn users who wants to come. And I put the hashtag on the end, LinkedIn Local, thinking, oh, well, the hashtag, this seems like a good idea. May have been the single best career decision I ever made was that hashtag. But yeah, Alexandra Galvez, who was in London at the time, Eric Eklund, who was in Brussels at the time, and Swish Goswami, who was in Toronto, moving to New York at the time, saw it, and then we kind of met, having not known each other, and then that became the co-creation team, the four of us for LinkedIn Local, hosting in 4 cities in 4 countries, and followed very quickly by many, many more.
Mm-hmm. Which year was this?
So this was June 2017. So just
okay.
going on 3.5 years.
Yeah, nice. And to create the hashtag was indeed a good idea. The new hashtags, the hashtags are a community in themselves, right?
They are, but at that time they weren't. And in fact, even it wasn't until September 2017 that native video came out on LinkedIn, because we were all just starting to run events, particularly in the UK and Europe, just coming back from the summertime. That was when a lot of the first events were happening. And I remember it was just when native video came on the platform. So this was even pre-video days on LinkedIn. Because I remember the release of video very well because of some of the events that we sort of kind of came to life in the news feed.
Yeah, the introduction of video really is one of the milestones of LinkedIn, which changed LinkedIn a lot. And
I think so.
Your situation reminds me a little to our German situation, where I found myself, say, up until the mid of last year. You see, in Germany, we have another platform that is a jobs and a recruiting portal. And many people in Germany still believe LinkedIn is a jobs and recruiting portal only. But it has changed massively. And I've driven that change also a lot with video. And video is a key element into that. Although video has not the widest reach in this moment, it's still a great way to put up your personal brand, which I think you have done very, very well. Yeah, you are really a brand in LinkedIn. You are one of these LinkedIn originals.
Well, thank you. I'm not very consistent on content, I must admit. So
okay.
I have to come and go from time to time. Particularly when I was writing the book, it was when you pour your creative part into writing that isn't obviously online, you tend to go a bit quiet. I had messages from people saying, are you all right? Like, what's happened to you? And I'm like,
I know that.
I'm doing something else for the moment.
So the wording LinkedIn Local, I mean, it sounds nice. Yeah, it has a good vibe. LL, LinkedIn Local, or we call it Lilo. Yeah.
Yes, we have to give. Yeah,
spontaneous idea of yourself. You could have mentioned it also, meet up or gathering, or how did that LinkedIn Local come to your mind?
I guess it was more just when I was crafting the post, I was like, LinkedIn Local, that just sounds so good together. And I guess it was really about local. It wasn't so much, I wanted the local to be a real focus of what we were doing, because it was getting to know the people behind the profiles and meeting face to face, as strange as that sounds this year. But yeah, so the local, there was a real onus on the local for me personally, and so that was where it came from. And of course, it was about LinkedIn. And as one of the reasons people are so drawn to it is because of the LinkedIn name on it. So I think the combination of the two, the double L's, the Lilo, which I love. I wasn't so keen on it at first. Someone else, I think it was actually the hosts in India that first started Lilo. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure I can quite manage this, but we ran with it and it's great.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea from that Indian guy. Shall we have a look at our comments right now? So
Absolutely.
we have Simon tuning in from Germany. Thanks, Simon, for being our viewer today. Jörg Rose from Germany as well. Michaela from Cologne. Good morning, she says. Thomas Gass, hello from Munich. He says no snow. Yes. Heidi Schneider, please bring some sun to us from Australia. Yeah. LinkedIn user wants to check out this feature. So LinkedIn user, first of all, what I would recommend is please turn on your profile photo for your second and third degree connections so that we can see who you are. Ava Hauser says good morning to all. She's our LinkedIn local host in Stuttgart. And she says hello to Thomas Gass. Sabine says good morning. Good morning, Sabine. Frank from Germany also. Carsten Germer, good day, great down under English, he says. Yeah, actually, that also came to my mind. Your English sounds different to the other Australian content creators I know so far. Is that because are you born actually in Australia? I don't know.
I am, but I did spend 9 years in Scotland, so
okay,
there may
that's the
be
reason,
a
maybe
slight,
why. Okay.
maybe, yeah, that's possible. Yes, it is possible that there is a little bit of that coming through.
Yeah, and then hello from Zagreb. We also have a LinkedIn local, now a rare event. Yeah, we will talk about that also, about LinkedIn locals in this.
I didn't know there was an event in Zagreb, so thank you for sharing that, Marianne.
Okay, Carsten keeps on writing a few words. I guess those are insider words, but I
think there's some Australian slang. I can see them. Yes.
Yeah, you can see
well
them.
Done,
I will not show them because I don't know if we have some younger viewers with us in this moment. Okay, right. So when you started this LinkedIn local movement, I understand you were 4 guys or 4 friends that met up virtually. You haven't met in presence, right?
No, and actually none of us knew each other either. I don't think any of us had ever connected at all. It was literally, Eric was like, this is a great idea. I might do it in Brussels. And suddenly we started to send a few DMs and say, oh, well, what are you going to do and how are you going to run this? And so Alex, Eric and I had a call, and then Swish joined a few weeks later to do New York. So, and we came up with some values fairly quickly. And some, I guess, a bit of a method that we were each going to follow, just from ideas that we liked of each other's. And so yeah, we didn't intend to create this global movement. We were literally just wanting to run fun and cool events in our own cities.
Great. I'm connected with them also because Leela Smith, I had her on the LinkedIn Live couple of weeks back. She mentioned actually the co-founding group, so that was a nice one. Let me move on the next question. So LinkedIn Local slowly became to grow, and was it really your intention that it grows into other cities as a group?
Yeah, I think from the outset, I mean, when I first put up the post, I didn't quite expect the response, but the minute that happened, I knew that there would be an appetite for this globally. You can't just get suddenly 3 cities all of a sudden from nowhere without expecting that there might be some more. So we, at the very outset, whenever we'd share posts or photos from our event, we'd say, if you want to start one in your city, please reach out. We're happy to help. And we could really see the value in connecting hosts to one another. I think that's one of the most important things about LinkedIn Local is hosts in neighboring cities, or even if there's more than one host in the city, to get to know each other. So we were keen to keep that host community together, as well as what we were getting and seeing was people reaching out to us saying, how have you done this? Can you help me? The people wanted help. They wanted some kind of leadership within that. And so, whilst we didn't plan it, we could see very early on that it was very quickly going to become very popular and grow to quite a large scale.
This is exactly the same question I'm getting, because I'm promoting these LinkedIn locals, and my desire is that we have all Germany, Austria, and Switzerland covered in all major metropolitan areas with LinkedIn locals. And people are asking me, so how do I create a LinkedIn local? Where do I register as a host and things like that? I'm telling them, give me a speaker slot and just do it. What would you say?
Look, I mean, so for the first 2 years prior to the release of the terms, we had a website. People could register for mentoring calls on the website. They could get like an information pack on how to become a host. There is a course that I put together. The terms were released in March of last year. So, and after that, I like you got messages. Can you help me? Can you help me? I want to talk to you. And I was like, no, look, here's the terms. I can't mentor this community anymore. And I'd still get, well, you were the founder, we want to know from you. So I did put together a free course, which is up and still live, which is where I send people to if they want it. Like I mean, it's about an hour and 20 minutes. It's a very, very simple course. But yeah, there isn't a central place, and it's a really difficult challenge, I think, for a lot of hosts, is not knowing if there's one in their city, or not knowing if they could perhaps attend one rather than starting one. It is a really, really tricky situation as the movement grows. Now, obviously, it's shrunk quite a bit this year, but as it will grow, as we all get back offline sometime in the future, it is very hard to manage who is a host. And it was in our vision, we wanted it all together and hosts to be connected and there to be a central host community. But LinkedIn didn't fully see it that way. So it's really up to hosts to try and stay connected as they possibly can to other hosts that are running events.
Yeah. As far as I understand it from the terms and conditions, is there can be even several LinkedIn locals in a city. That gives me the impression of a bit of a competing situation. But on the other hand, it is still practical, because LinkedIn, even if we are talking about LinkedIn DACH here, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, LinkedIn is scattered into smaller sub-communities. Yeah, you have the community of the finance industry, of the, I don't know, the SMEs. Then you got the coaches and trainers. So it sort of gives the flexibility, to have
it does, and
LinkedIn
I think
locals in different communities.
It does, and I think the one place that I really saw huge potential and growth was actually within universities and colleges, for them to have their own LinkedIn local events. And of course, that means you want to have multiple ones per city. I do think there's value in industries connecting with other industries rather than making them industry specific. That was something that we had said, was keep it open and available to everyone, so it doesn't become about one industry. But having said that, if you've got 20 per city, you've got to find, your niche pocket that's going to work, that there is demand for, and that may be an industry specific one, and that's great.
Yeah. But for now, I would be happy to have at least one in every major city, and we are struggling with that in this moment. But okay, that is also because of the situation right now, to be honest. Yeah, I think we would be much further if we wouldn't have the pandemic times at this moment. Okay, so yeah.
I was going to say, I just saw Maya's comment there. If you're looking for the course, she said, can you share the link? If you go to the generic LinkedIn local page on LinkedIn, just look up LinkedIn local. It's just on its own, the main page. There's a pinned post at the top with some links on it, and the link is on that. The course is over a year old, so it isn't COVID friendly. So obviously you could do the course from your own home, but it doesn't talk about social distancing at events. So the main LinkedIn local page, pinned post at the top.
Yeah. Maya,
and
maybe
if you still can't find it, DM me.
Yeah, absolutely. Maya, maybe you can write down which city you are considering to enter with your LinkedIn locals, and let's have a chat also about it. So when you started, Anna, this LinkedIn local movement, what was the reaction of LinkedIn, the company, if there was any?
So initially we were very cautious in what we were doing, because we obviously knew that LinkedIn's name was on it, and we were very keen to work with them, seeing the demand suddenly, and also seeing the experience that users were having by going to events was very much changing the way that people use the platform and enriching that experience. And so we looked at terms and user agreements and stuck by everything that we possibly could. We tried to reach out to a few LinkedIn employees at the time, and we weren't very successful doing that through our own networks. And it was around a year after it started, I think it was about 10 months after the April of 2018, we did get, it was just very difficult to find the team at LinkedIn who could help manage, or whose remit this might fall under, if that makes sense. And so we had a conversation with one of the teams, and that was really positive. They loved the content coming out of these events. They loved kind of the growth and I guess the positive feedback. They were very keen to protect the use of the logo and things like that. So we spent probably as founders, and there were a few others on the team by this point, people like Lila helping with mentoring and things like that. But there were a lot of us kind of trying to come up with a strategy that where LinkedIn could help support support the hosts, obviously in a non-financial way, but allow it to continue. And obviously one of those was the use of a logo and things like that. So we spent around 8 months in conversations, and it went from very positive to very much being about the legal aspect. So being about the name, being about co-branding. Mm-hmm. And things like that. And then, so obviously after 8 months, very few of our suggestions, apart from making some kind of logo available to users, was actually listened to. So that was part of the terms, but they didn't really recognize the values that we'd set at the outset, and the community that we built. It very much became open and available to every LinkedIn user, which it always was, except we just had a process so that you could get connected to other hosts that you went through. So all of that wasn't really necessary and really couldn't be run after the release of the term. So I think, and I've written about this, and I've talked extensively on some podcasts about the experience, and I don't think there was anyone at LinkedIn that was really able to, who had the authority, or it just wasn't the direction, at least at that time, for the business. Events weren't part of what they planned. This thing, by the time those terms were released, LinkedIn Local was in 92 countries. It was vast. Wow. And it was, I just don't think there was anyone at LinkedIn that was really just able to make this decision of, yes, well, let's, I talked about being very proactive about it. We were very reactive at the time with hosts. I talked about a lot of proactive strategies that, we as a team were prepared to put in place should they want that, that available. Things like badges, I had suggested there's the LinkedIn influencer badge. They could create a LinkedIn Local host badge. The technology exists there. Like, wouldn't that be amazing for us all who run events just to have that on our profile? Then we're not being paid, but you actually have a badge. And so little things like that. And none of it wasn't, I just don't think it was part of the strategic direction of LinkedIn's business, at least at that time. And so, yeah, so I think, as I've said, every single employee I've spoken to at LinkedIn, and I've spoken to a number of different teams, they loved it. The individuals loved it, but as a corporation, they just didn't quite know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can totally relate to that, because we wanted to have a gathering with our German-speaking LinkedIn group in Munich, and LinkedIn is also in Munich. But the reflection I got from them is they don't have the resources to, support social activities. This is at least my understanding from LinkedIn, that LinkedIn is strongly inclined towards the technology, the products they are developing, and the social side is a bit, like, here's the infrastructure. That's what we give you. use it, and you make the party on it. This is how I interpret LinkedIn. Meanwhile,
I think so. And I mean, you and I both do LinkedIn training, and I don't think LinkedIn see LinkedIn Local as any different to LinkedIn trainers. They don't officially endorse any trainers. You know, you can become a LinkedIn trainer by building a reputation and then obviously educating on it and building a business around that. And it's the same with LinkedIn Local. There's no official endorsement. They don't want to have. I still think it would be wonderful to see a point of contact, at least within the business, who people could go to with questions and ideas and things like that. Because for a really long time, I was still getting all those questions, and I was continually having to say to people, look, you've just got to contact the help desk, because that's what I've been told to tell anyone else. And that's not great from a user experience. For somebody who really wants to put their hand up and lead locally and really drive engagement on the platform, and it just didn't, it wasn't. It's just not. At least last year, it wasn't part of their business model, and now obviously it won't be. I would love to think that, with COVID, and there is going to be the most enormous appetite to get back offline again when we're safe and able to. And that may not be too far away. And I would love to think that LinkedIn might think differently about how LinkedIn Local could create those serendipitous encounters that we're all so craving. But I'm that is completely out of my hands. But it is interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was going to say, it is interesting. There are a lot of brands who do support their user communities in a very, very different way. So I was chatting to someone recently about the VidCon experience with YouTube. VidCon was very user-driven, and how that's, and also Burning Man as well. They have pop-ups in other countries throughout the world, and that was something that was created by their users. And then the main team said, okay, let's figure out a way to support this and allow it to happen, the terms under which it can happen. But there's still a control around the experience and the values and everything that's happening.
Okay, so we are running into minute number 27. Let's make a deal, Anna. We make a call to action to LinkedIn, because you have some loyal LinkedIn viewers and I do have some loyal LinkedIn viewers. So anyone who is viewing this live now from LinkedIn, please would you escalate this matter of LinkedIn Local hosting up to your management and find a solution for us, like the idea with the badge. I like that badge idea. That is
funnily enough, I'm actually going to publish the letter, well, not the letter, the email that I sent to LinkedIn with all the ideas. I'm going to publish it later this week, and that's not on the back of this conversation. That's on the back of another user community I know who really needs it, as a bit of a look. Here are some ideas on how brands can support the user community based on my experience and all the research we did at the time. So when I publish that, I will tag you in it. We could perhaps circulate that a little bit more amongst the community.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's come to our. Let's shortly summarize this. So what we have learned from you is there is no central organ at LinkedIn that is approving or disapproving LinkedIn Locals. What you have to do is you have to take the initiative and set up a LinkedIn Local in your city. Just call it LinkedIn Local, and ideally the city you are living in, and start inviting the people. There are terms and conditions, though. You can use the LinkedIn Local logo, which is downloadable in the blue color and in the white color, in the negative form from the LinkedIn Local page that they have set up. But other than that, just don't get into conflicts with the legal things like what do they prohibit?
Well, co-branding. So you can't co-brand events. So if you want to create your business women's network and a joint LinkedIn Local, you can't do that.
It has to be a pure LinkedIn Local.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So that's a summary of the first part. Now let's come to the second part. I have here a package that was sent to me on the 28th of September. A little earlier than you got it. So I'm opening it, It's really the first time I'm opening this now. I waited.
Oh, that's exciting.
I waited for you to be on my live. Unfortunately, it doesn't say what it is, so I'm hoping it is what I ordered. You see, I had to order it from the United States. It was not available in Germany, so it had to.
It's meant to be in all Amazon markets.
At that time. Maybe now it's different. So I'm taking it out. Oh, it has already a blue shiny color there.
Yeah, that will be mine.
So this is what you have written, right, with Nicole
Yes.
Johnston. How a hashtag changed the world. So we talked about the hashtag LinkedIn Local, or is it the Lilo hashtag? It's the LinkedIn Local, right?
Oh, it's LinkedIn Local.
It's the longer version. Just let me read this. This is the story of a global movement that began when a single LinkedIn user who was missing face-to-face connection, that is you, right? Started a local meetup and the global movement that followed. LinkedIn Local, hashtag LinkedIn Local, began as a single meeting over a coffee for 15 strangers in 2017 and grew to over 650 cities in over 90 countries in less than 2 years. This book details how the volunteer movement began, how it grew, and the lessons and reflections from the movement. The impact on careers and building a sense of belonging was profound and demonstrates how a group of thoughtful human beings can unite communities and use social media for good. It shares many human stories of authentic connection, career change, and social impact at a local and global level. So that is a great summary. For whom did you write this?
Look, I think I'm not entirely sure. I think it was the hosts and the people involved, and largely a little bit for myself. What happened when the terms were released, I mean, I had this kind of deep sense of, in a way, relief, because I was very burnt out, but also Nicole, to give you some context, dealt with a lot of the internal host communications and newsletters and things like that for the host community. She was part of a team of sort of 6 to 8 of us who were really, really helping, sort of like an inner circle to help bring this movement further as it grew. But and Nicole and I had this conversation and said, you know, these stories can't die. I mean, I was, for 2 years, my inbox was just filled with people saying this completely changed my life, or, you know, I've changed careers, or I've met someone, or I learned something, or I started using LinkedIn because of the events, or it got me out of this, you know, huge, I guess, you know, hole in their life. And this was what really brought it about. And so I said to Nicole, I said, I don't think these stories can remain in my inbox. So they need to be put out there. And so we wanted to share it because I think it's such an interesting case study for user communities as well, and online to offline communities, and how the experience of offline enriches our online experience. And for any other brands that are looking to build user communities, because they're happening everywhere, and then more and more users are rallying together under sort of branded names, and there's a lot of questions from a legal aspect and everything else that I think we touch on in the book to help people understand, you know, what the response was, and you know, whether it was warranted, and what could have been a little bit different.
So it was a part of a healing process for you, as far as I understand?
I think so. Yeah. Okay. I think so.
That's a classical one, actually. Yeah, writing can heal a lot. Yeah, wonderful. But other than that, now I got the book open. I'm happy the book arrived safely with me. It's sitting here since we discussed and agreed that we will be live, and I unboxed it together with you. Right.
Thank you. That's so nice.
Yeah, so one of the aspects that I found interesting when visiting LinkedIn Locals, you mentioned in your book that it changed careers and lives. Let's talk about LinkedIn engagement in the virtual environment. I found once you have met people in a LinkedIn Local, also the engagement rate increases, of course. So because now people know you, people start getting more curious about what you are posting, and dwell time is starting to move, connections is starting to move. So it's not only that that you are watching people on a LinkedIn online environment, it's also you are getting known to people that you weren't connected before, and you get connected, and you start increasing also your following and your connections. Has your following increased?
Look, it has definitely. And even if because I still host events locally here in Australia. And so what I think it's done as for individual hosts is very much given what I call social capital. When people are able to become a leader within their own city, and they become a go-to person, and even that, if that doesn't need to necessarily be about LinkedIn, it might be whatever other type of career that they're doing, but they do get to be seen as a leader and as a go-to person. I really saw with LinkedIn Local the desire to lead. So of course the following is going to go up from that respect. I mean, certainly for me personally, I obviously gained a global following and a lot of global connections through the movement, having managed a lot of it and mentored. I think I counted the first 400 in our host community. I think I personally spoke to 300 of them. It was something crazy, and then I lost track. So I did really know all the hosts in the early days, but so yes, it definitely has increased my own following and engagement. But I think as well, even just at a local level, what I really saw was, one, suddenly LinkedIn became relevant to a lot of people who weren't very active on the platform, and they became more active. But also there's a sense of, if you are meeting up monthly in person, you can actually use LinkedIn to keep in touch throughout the month when you're not seeing people, and people know more about what's going on in your business, whether you've won a business award or you've released a new product or something that you've been up to over the past month. So when you meet in person again a month later or a few weeks later, there's very much this sense of, oh yes, I remember you posted about that. And it really does help those relationships and bonds form when you combine the online and offline experience. And that is just, to me, is an incredible opportunity for LinkedIn, and really what LinkedIn Local did, because it increased user engagement and does in the cities around the world that are most active. There's a statistic in Pune in India that I think, I have to, Priya would have to back me up on this because she talked about it in the launch party event, but there's something like I think when LinkedIn Local started, there was about 1 million users on LinkedIn in a city of 5 million, and it's now about 3 million. Like, it's huge. And they were a very, very active city in India. And she said a lot of that is to do with LinkedIn Local, because they just have a huge, huge following and huge, huge interest in what they're doing. Now, it's obviously not going to account for every user, but I would imagine LinkedIn could probably deep dive into some stats on, and I know from my own Sales Navigator stats that, when we run a LinkedIn Local, the engagement goes up around the user, number of active users.
I can totally confirm that. Whichever LinkedIn Local I have been to and spoken to the audience, what I'm saying to them, my call to action during my speak is start posting tomorrow morning. I will check that, right? Just as a anecdote. You have a lot of first timers in the LinkedIn Locals. They don't know LinkedIn really well. In our case, they are maybe on the other German-speaking platform. And after the LinkedIn Local, you are seeing that they are starting really to engage more and spend more time on LinkedIn. That's right. So it's like a engagement booster, these LinkedIn Locals. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I can't imagine anything, it's always the thing in social media where you can have X number of users, but really in terms of the value of the platform. It's all about the number of active users, and this
Absolutely.
absolutely has increased the number of active users without a doubt.
Okay, let's check one more time the comments before I come to our last topic. So Maya says originally she's from Berlin, but right now she lives in Stuttgart. Maya, as we said, Ava is the LinkedIn local host in Stuttgart. You may, contact her. Then we got Ulrike. She's LinkedIn local host in Hamburg. Wonderful, Ulrike, for your attendance today. And then we got Sandra. Good morning. She is the LinkedIn local of Bremen. Yes, that's right. And she did the LinkedIn local in Bremen just a few days before the LinkedIn, the LinkedIn, the lockdown light came over Germany. Yes.
Oh.
And I did also 3 days ago, one in Essen, 3 days before the lockdown light. Yes. But everything was safe. We are all negative. Okay,
Good.
wonderful.
Yeah, I've just run a in-person event again last Friday, actually. And that was really week before last, and that was really nice to actually get back in person again.
Yeah, and that's my last question, Anna. So how do we go forward? This pandemic, I don't know. I have the feeling it will accompany us a little longer than we thought. Yeah, we're waiting for the vaccine, but vaccine will be realistically, at least in Germany, not available before mid of next year. And again, then you have to see what the outcome is and how many people can be vaccinated. So how do we go on with LinkedIn locals? What are your ideas? What does the hoster community say?
I think I've seen some really, and I've done a couple of LinkedIn lives with some hosts who've really pivoted to online. And there's been some actually, it's what's been really nice for me is I've actually been able to attend Toronto and Baltimore events that I was never able to obviously get to in person. So I think there are some advantages of online. And so I think it's going to be quite hard to establish a group if you don't already have one online. But if you have an offline one, I think even if it's maybe once every 2 months, it's just doing something online. Baltimore do some amazing stuff around, stuff in their city. So there was their LinkedIn local event included oyster shucking because they've obviously got a lot of oysters in Baltimore. And I think they had the Orioles mascot doing a dance for them. And they just, had different things just happening on Zoom that were just so fun, and breakout rooms. And Toronto just held an event recently that had some great speakers. So I think not everybody's going to engage with online Zoom events or on whichever platform you run, but I think it is a good way to keep in touch with existing people, and it doesn't need to be doesn't necessarily need to be every week or month, even if it's just kind of keeping the group tick over. Having a LinkedIn group as well, I think, to support the group on the back of that is also a good idea too. But I think as well, it's going to largely be down to the restrictions within your city and what is allowed and what isn't. 3 months ago, I never thought I would run another LinkedIn local again locally because I just wasn't sure that there was going to be the appetite for it. And as restrictions here have eased in my area, we were able to ran, it was all outdoors, undercover. It was a really nice event. Obviously being summertime here, that was a lot easier. And the appetite for it was great. And it was really great to be back offline again. And I anticipate next year us not having too many problems with restrictions because, and that's maybe largely down to the way, each country individually manages. I know Australia and New Zealand are probably in a better situation than, say, Germany and Austria are right now. But I think it's really just keeping in touch with the community online, perhaps just trying some events. I would really recommend to anyone that is hosting, do a survey of your past attendees and just ask them, are they interested in doing an online event? Go to some of the LinkedIn local events that are being held online. I know there's one being held. It's going to be in the middle of the night in Germany, but somebody's doing a virtual reality one at the start of January. That's Zach Scriven. But yeah, I would say you've got to just continue online for if a survey result says that people want to do it, and it might only be 5 to 10 people that turn up, and that's okay because a lot of people need it right now. And it is just going to make it that much easier to restart again when we're able to. And those that have pivoted online, the feedback I've had from them is that they've said, because we've had so much positive feedback about our online events, they've said we will probably do a hybrid model in the future anyway. And I think that's, a lot of the community industry is saying that there will be, the future of events is really in a blend of online to offline, because people have really experimented with the online and seen how they can reach people who can't normally be there in person. It makes events a lot more accessible, as well as having the offline ones where people really do need to connect. So I wouldn't shy away from doing online events. It's just a case of getting a bit organized and getting familiar with a platform like Zoom, and just getting some helpers and putting something together.
Yeah, our first Stuttgart LinkedIn local event that was scheduled for the 10th of November. That was before the lockdown light was announced once again. Actually turned from a presence to a hybrid, as you call it. What we've done is we have rented a space in a workspace and streamed in a LinkedIn event, a LinkedIn live, LinkedIn local event. How do you find that? So it's a LinkedIn live, LinkedIn event, and a LinkedIn local format.
It sounds wonderful. I know I couldn't work out the technology to do that.
It's easy. It's easy. You just create a LinkedIn event, then you take the event, the URL, and put it into StreamYard, and like we did now, it's showtime.
There it is. Yeah.
It's showtime.
Look, it's great. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
We had this really fun idea with LinkedIn Local. This was one of our crazy ideas, but I suggested, because at that time no one had LinkedIn Live, and what I'd suggested that we do, and I'm going to give credit to Andrew Griffiths in London who came up with this idea, but he said we should have give all the LinkedIn Local hosts live access, and we can coordinate a 24-hour global party where we go live, starting in New Zealand, where obviously the dateline, the day begins, and have a launch day, and then we pass the baton to Australia and Singapore and China, and then move to the Middle East, and then on to Europe, and then finish it off in the US. And we just have this sort of baton that we pass, a bit like the New Year's Eve party.
When it comes to Germany, please think of me. I will be attending this.
I don't think I'm going to ever be responsible for coordinating it now, but we did say this could be a really fun way to launch LinkedIn
That's a
Live.
fun idea. It's a wonderful idea. I love it. Okay, let's have a final look at our comments. So Miriam says she's just started a LinkedIn local in Erlangen. What a wonderful occurrence, because I'm not far from Erlangen. It's an hour drive, and I thought always our area is a pampa, not much with LinkedIn locals. So Miriam, great that you are starting this. Stefanie says super danke. She says thanks for the tip. And Hülya from Turkey says hello, wonderful. Okay, let's come to the end of our discussion. So we got the 45 minutes already fulfilled. Anna, thank you so much being on my show. The last thing I'm asking my guests always is, what is your CTA? What is your call to action? The one thing that you want to ask our communities to do?
You mean in terms of finding me, or just in terms of life advice?
Do both together.
All right. I'm going to say, obviously connect with me on LinkedIn. But if you're interested more in the community writings and things, I'm about to take a break over the summer. But if you go to localx.substack.com, that will be where I'm writing a lot of community stuff. And I guess my life advice, if I need to give that, is one thing I'm really driven by is a sense of belonging. And I think we all have the capacity to help others belong. And for me, LinkedIn Local was really about that. So if you do have the desire to run a LinkedIn Local or any other type of community, I'd really encourage you to look into that and do a bit more research and reach out to others, because I think it's a really important thing in the world right now, even more so, is that sense of belonging, and really helping others help find that is very important.
Thank you so much, Anna. This would be also the same CTA I would have said. Yeah, anyone who is looking into, organizing these events, try to get it in the LinkedIn environment, LinkedIn Local environment. So thank you so much, Anna. Now for you, it's around 9 p.m. Time for...
It is, yes.
Yeah, 9 p.m. in Sydney. I'm running into 11 this morning. Thank you, dear viewers, for watching our LinkedIn Live show. And Anna, all the best for the future. We keep in touch. And a final time, please don't forget, Anna wrote this book, How a Hashtag Changed the World. Get to your favorite book store and get a copy of it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Ilke.